The effects of Brexit are already making themselves felt, almost 3 months later, in more than half of British companies. More than half of British companies have already experienced the new hurdles associated with this since the final Brexit. 52% of the companies surveyed stated that they had experienced disruptions in trade, according to a recent YouGov survey. For companies that trade moderately or heavily with the EU, this proportion is even 80%. The broadcaster Sky News reported on Friday. In addition, more than half of the respondents from these companies believed that the situation would continue to deteriorate. At the beginning of the year, the UK made the final cut from the EU. Thus, the island state is no longer part of the EU internal market. Due to the laboriously negotiated Brexit trade pact, tariffs were largely avoided. However, due to new controls and other formalities, the processing of goods at the border is taking significantly longer. This disrupts the previous processes of many companies. There are also special restrictions for some products. There are still significant barriers to trade with the European Union, states a report published by a House of Lords committee in London on Thursday. The Brexit trade agreement concluded with the EU prevented the nightmare of a no deal for Great Britain, but there are still many unfinished points between the two sides, said committee chairman Sandeep Verma. Small and medium-sized companies in particular felt the pressure. The report warned that controls on animal and vegetable products in particular could become permanent problems. Meat products and live shellfish are particularly badly affected. Great Britain left the EU internal market and the customs union on January 1st, completing Brexit, so to speak. Since then, UK exporters have been required to provide a health certificate for every animal and vegetable product for exports to the EU. There are also customs duties. Several industries are complaining of a significant slump in their export business. The Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the TCA, should be seen as the beginning and not the end of the UK's new relationship with the EU, said Verma. She demanded the government must take an ambitious approach to trade relations with the EU. The committee believes that complex and varied VAT rules are among the greatest challenges for companies in the EU. The corona pandemic and Brexit also had a heavy impact on car production in Great Britain in February. Compared to the same month last year, production fell by 14% in February, as the industry association SMMT announced on Friday in London. 105,008 cars left the gates of the production facilities. According to the association, this corresponds to the weakest February for more than a decade and the 18th month in a row. After a year of pandemic, these numbers show once again how hard the coronavirus has hit car production, said SMMT boss Mike Hawes, according to a statement. The industry representative, however, sees light at the end of the tunnel. According to current plans, car dealerships in England should be allowed to open from mid-April, so that potential customers can look at cars on site again. However, the industry continues to suffer from the Brexit trade hurdles, which have made exports much more complicated since the end of the Brexit transition phase at the turn of the year. More than 4 out of 5 cars produced in the UK are exported, the majority of them to the EU, according to SMMT. And that's not going to change much. And as I talked about the House of Lords already once again, a House of Lords committee has identified post-Brexit UK crime-fighting disadvantages. With the exit from the EU, the British lost access to the so-called Schengen Information System, a central EU crime database. This means that important information is available after a few hours instead of a few seconds, noted the committee chairman and former National Security Advisor Peter Ricketts, as the BBC reported on Friday. The Security and Legal Affairs Committee of the House of Lords had examined the effects of the changed situation. In their laboriously negotiated trade pact, the EU and Great Britain have entered into a fundamental security cooperation so that the UK still has access to some data, for example, from air passengers. Nevertheless, the lack of access to the central database created a significant gap, according to Ricketts. The State Secretary from the Home Office, Kevin Foster, stressed that the UK was still one of the safest countries in the world. I don't have the numbers to say anything about that. But the UK government has announced that the UK national flag will soon be flying on all government buildings. The government has told ministries and local governments that the flag will be hoisted every day instead of only on special occasions like the opening of Parliament and Queen Elizabeth II's birthday. People rightly expect the Union Jack to fly on city and government buildings around the country as a sign of our regional and national identity, said local government secretary Robert Jenrick. Raising the national flag is less common in the United Kingdom than in some other countries, such as the United States. But since Boris Johnson's election as Prime Minister in December 2019, the Union Jack has become increasingly visible, an ubiquitous backdrop for government ministers' interviews from their offices or homes. Its increasing visibility is part of a government campaign to emphasize the United Kingdom's unity at a time when support for Scottish independence is growing. The red, white and blue Union flag brings together the emblems of England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, which together with Wales make up the United Kingdom. Some Britons are uncomfortable with the visible display of patriotism or the flag's association with the British Empire and Brexit. Under the new rules, any government building that wishes to fly the European Union flag will require special permission. Although that's a funny thing. If they fly this like they did in Scotland, and that's probably why they made these changes to prevent Scotland from doing that, are they flying the European Union flag or is it the Council of Europe? And as far as I'm concerned, the UK is still a member of the Council of Europe. And the Council of Europe used this flag before the European Union did so. They both have the same flag, no problem. But it is the flag of the Council of Europe. And if the law is really made like this, they will need special permission to fly the European Union flag. But can they need a special permission to fly the flag of the European Council they are a member of? The Council of Europe? There will be a little fun discussion in the future as well. The government says the rules allowing the EU flag to be hoisted on public buildings without a permit will be lifted after the UK leaves the European Union. But still, it's not necessarily the flag of the European Union. However, the new rules will not apply to Northern Ireland. There, the setting up of British and Irish flags is a highly sensitive topic that is subject to complex rules. But Scotland is subject to those new rules. Just saying. And COVID restrictions and Brexit have been blamed for another, let's say, and I don't mean it bad in the whole way, but another in fatality. COVID restrictions and Brexit have been blamed for Woer Brewing Company falling into administration with the loss of 12 jobs. That's another part of Brexit and reality in practical life. The artisan brewing business based in Kinloss, Morgenpost, founded by Heather MacDonald, has suffered unsustainable cash flow problems arising from the rapid contraction of the global hospitality and licensed trade industry, and problems and costs for exporters arising from Brexit. Set up in 2015, Woer Brewing had built a substantial report business for its range of highly distinctive craft beers and regular seasonal releases. Its brands include Rock and Roll, Hop Stampede, and Jenny from the Block, which helped the business secure trade partnerships across a growing number of markets, including China, Finland, Israel, Italy, Russia, and the US. More recently, the company has developed an expanding trade and online domestic business, securing agreements with leading brands such as Wetherspoons, Ocado, Amazon Prime, and growing direct-to-consumer sales from its own website. Since 2017, Wua Brewing has been operating from a purpose-built 16,000 square feet facility in Kinloss with a capacity to support fast-growing demand. Since its inception, the business has raised £2.3 million from private investors, which included a high-profile crowdfunding campaign. The investment helped create the infrastructure required to support a rapidly expanding export business and finance a major rebranding. Commenting, Joint Administrator F.A.Z, partner with FRP, said, Wua Brewing Company is a high-profile craft brewing business with a substantial and growing trade and consumer client base. The business had grown rapidly in recent years, was well-financed, and had a clear strategy and positioning in a crowded market. The business has unfortunately been severely affected by a combination of COVID, the contraction of its main markets, and the bureaucracy of Brexit. Despite every effort by the directors to keep the business trading and ensure the company would be able to capitalize on the recovery when it comes, the severe financial problems meant that administration was the only option. Unfortunately, 12 members of staff have been made redundant with immediate effect, with 2 staff being retained to assist with the administration process. We will be working closely with the Redundancy Payment Service and other agencies to minimize the impact on the staff. We will also be looking to sell the businesses and assets, either in whole or in part, as quickly as possible. So that is another one going out of business. And Brexit definitely plays a big part in it as well. And I will keep on bringing you these small examples out of practice where you say, well, it's just one small, but I'm bringing you regularly more and more of those of being affected in everyday life, in real life. So project reality in its full effect. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.